We are opening up our Inkscape program now, so you can click pause to open your Inkscape program. Give me a green check if you remember that we would set the smoothness to 45. We're just kind of reviewing some things that hopefully you remember from Digital Arts 1. This one's to set your smoothness to 45 when you're using the pencil tool, and I'm going to illustrate these for you. The other one was how to draw straight lines. To draw straight lines, to make a start point, you just click and release, and then move the mouse to where you want the end point, and then you click, and that'll make a straight line. This says it's going to do, it controls things. So like when you're making your straight lines, if you hold down the control key, it will keep your lines at 15-degree increments. I know, I've learned to love it. I used to hate it, and I made it my personal ambition to learn to love Inkscape. And you know what? When I went into it with the right attitude, I actually learned to like it. And you can too. So think about your attitude that you have and just, yeah, that can make a difference. And then control also helps you to make those perfect circles and squares. So control does exactly what it says to do. It controls things. Shift is when you want to add stuff. So like when you're clicking on nodes and you want to have more than one node selected, you hold down the shift key. Or if you want to select more than one shape, you hold down the shift key. It will also help you to change the line color because remember all of the shapes have an outline and they also have a fill. And you've got that little palette on the bottom. If you click on a color in the palette swatch, that's going to change the fill. If you want to change the line color, you have to hold the shift down. Give me a green check if you guys remember that. Good. Now you've heard it. It'll make sense when you do it. And then remember the shift key, when you draw a star, if you hold it down and drag the handles, it'll make your star turn into funky shapes. And then the Alt key also does that, but the Alt key makes the star handles turn into super abstract shapes that don't even look like stars anymore. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate these things, and then of course there's the undo and redo, and all of these things are in the drop-down menus, but if you want to, practice the shortcuts, Control-Z always comes in handy. You can always do those basics. And remember those Utah Visual Arts standards when you're doing your artwork. I know you guys have all seen them with me before, making, perceiving, expressing, and contextualizing. We're in the very basics of the process right now, just learning how to use this media, Inkscape. It can get confusing for sure. And then wanting you to become so comfortable using the tools in Inkscape that you can actually start expressing yourself and creating meaning. And that's the reason why I have been asking you to think of an artist and to create a work of art inspired by that artist, because that will help you to get the meaning in your art. And it's also contextualizing when you align it with something else. You know what the lesson is about. This one's about the elements of art. Give me a green check if you remember the elements of art. Maybe you don't have them memorized, but you've definitely heard about the elements of art, right? Okay, so this lesson right here is specifically about the element of line, and so we're going to be using, talks about different types of lines, and then the uses in art, and then it gets to the point where it actually wants you to start opening up Inkscape, okay? So it's going to tell you to use your pencil tool and the Bezier tool and the calligraphy tool and the fill and stroke panel to find an artist you admire and choose one of his or her artworks to use as an inspiration for the next assignment. It's all going to go in the same Dropbox. You'll create and submit an interesting design based on this artwork using the tools you mastered in the Unit 2 lesson, demonstrate the elements of art, the principles of design, and make some meaning in it. And then, yeah, there's your rubric. So that's what I'm looking for. Has lines, shapes, colors, and textures. Yes, you can, absolutely. And then you're going to submit a comment to the Dropbox that says the artist who inspired you, the name of specific artwork you used for inspiration, what's the meaning behind the artwork, okay? So always remember to leave me a comment when you submit your work. I want to just, that's how I'm going to get some of that meaning that you intended to put in there, okay? And then there's the Dropbox, and then there's the rubric that includes all of those points from above. So just give me a green check. Sorry, let me clear that. If you're cool on the assignment, where to find it. You know where to find the assignment. You doing okay? I didn't get your green check. Just want to make sure you know where to find that. Okay, sweet. Thank you. Now let's go ahead and get started. So on Inkscape, let me drag mine over. We're still sharing, and Inkscape gives me troubles when I am trying to make a video at the same time. So there may be times when I'm clicking away and nothing's happening, and it's going to happen to you too sometimes, because Inkscape uses a lot of your computer's memory, unless you've got a supercomputer. So the first thing I want you to do is go File, Save As, and I want you to find your Digital Arts folder, Digital Arts 2, and I'm just going to go ahead and this is going to go, it's the 2.07 assignment, and name it with your first and last name. So mine is Rachel Girot, and I'll just put Unit 2 lesson, because this first one is the lesson. So first and last name, Unit 2 lesson. How about that? So it's going to look like that. And then click Save. And then give me a green check once you've got that saved. And if you have any questions, please raise your hand. So just waiting for a green check when everybody has their files saved. They're getting there. Good. And then once you have your file saved, I want you to go up to the Layer menu, and at the very bottom of the Layer menu, click on Layers. Once you have it saved, go up to the Layer menu, at the very bottom, click Layers. So waiting for Davin in London to give me a green check to show that they have. Oh, yours is always open. Good. Give me a green check to show that you have them saved, Davin in London. Oh, London, thank you. Got it. Perfect, thank you. And then click on the Layer menu at the top and click on that Layers at the very bottom. It says Layers. And that's going to bring up your Layers box. And if it does anything weird like mine, it just resized my window. Fear not. And then just go ahead and click File, Save. And you might just want to get used to the shortcut to save, Control S. So just know, the more you save, the more memory you have freed up on your computer, okay? So just keep on saving, like after everything you do, and then that's not going to overwhelm your computer as much as if you do like 5 steps without saving or 10 steps without saving, because it's running up all of the computer's memory. The other thing you want to do when you open your Inkscape is make sure you don't have any files on your computer that are open. And if it does anything weird like mine, it just resized my window. Fear not. And then just go ahead and click File, Save. And you might just want to get used to the shortcut to save, Control S. So just know, the more you save, the more memory you have freed up on your computer, okay? So just keep on saving, like after everything you do, and then that's not going to overwhelm your computer as much as if you do like 5 steps without saving or 10 steps without saving, because it's running up all of the computer's memory. The other thing you want to do when you open your Inkscape is make sure you don't have any files on your computer that are open that haven't been saved. So is everybody good with having everything on their computer? If the computer all of a sudden froze, you'd be okay? You wouldn't lose anything? Good. All right, so first thing, let's just go ahead and start with the basics. So we've got the rectangle tool. So take that first layer and just click on it and name it rectangle. rectangles, whatever, that'll work, rectangle. And you have to hit enter, otherwise it won't save the name. If you just do like tab or click off of it, it doesn't save it. So just go ahead and name it rectangle, grab your rectangle tool and just make a couple of rectangles. And then to make your square, hold down the shift key, or sorry, control, remember control things. Hold down your control key to make your square. And it does control it with other proportions as well. So it doesn't just make squares. As you can see, this looks like it's about 1 to 3. So the width, whatever the length of the width is, the length of the height there is about 3 times that. But you can tell when it becomes a square. All right, and then you want to go ahead and get that fill and stroke box open by clicking on Object, Fill and Stroke right at the top. Okay, so once you have your fill and stroke open, then you should be able to see your layers and your fill and stroke box. So you can take your select tool. The select tool is the select and transform. It's the very top left. It looks like an arrow. You click on that, then you can go ahead and click on your squares. Click Save, File Save. Keep on saving. If you save and wait a second, you should be able to use it. Okay, so Object and then Fill and Stroke, or did you get your Layers tab open up yet, Scott? Okay. And my stroke width is really thin, so that was a great question. I like how you're segueing. If you select your object, you can click on the stroke style. My width is 1, so you can't really see it, but you can increase your width of your stroke so you can actually see the outline. So go ahead and do that so we can see it really clearly. Oh, yeah, so you probably couldn't see your rectangle, right? So that's a good point. You always kind of want to check your settings, and then remember that whatever your settings were, it always saves them. So let's go ahead and then remember this is like a flat color fill. This right here is a linear gradient. So if you click on that, you'll notice that you get a gradient. And I think one of the requirements that it had in there was that it wanted you to have a gradient. So make sure you put a gradient in one of your squares or rectangles. You can click on a separate one and you can create this radial gradient. And then you can't see the outline on that one, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to increase my outline so I can still see it. And then we'll play around with that, what I was telling you, how if you select a different rectangle or square or one of them, and just click on one of the colors down there in the palette at the bottom, and you'll notice it changes the fill color. Wherever you're at, click Save. Save and free up your computer's memory so it doesn't start malfunctioning. How do you get yours to look like that? Do you want to use your microphone, Scott, so you can talk to me? Might be easier. Okay. Well, are you talking about the ones with the gradients? How do you get the gradients? Is that what you mean? Okay, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and click on a new one, and all you do is go over to this Fill tab on your Fill and Stroke, and then you'll notice there's this box right here. If you hover your cursor, it says flat color, and that's what it's set at right now. You could also click the X, and it would take away the fill. But I'm going to go back to my flat color. Oh, and now it changed it to black. So I'm going to select the color that I want from down here on the palette. Now I can click on this one. This is linear gradient, and that gives me a gradient that is linear from one side to the other. Or I could do this radial gradient. So, and then this one says pattern. It's not liking using my pink. This one says swatch, but anyway, you can just kind of play around with those and what it does. It's not always going to do what you want it to do. And then to change the line width, go to the stroke style tab at the top of your fill and stroke box and increase the width. Is that right? I never know if things aren't working because I'm making a video or because my computer's slow, and if it doesn't look like it's doing anything, I'll try clicking save and see if that helps. Otherwise, okay, so now click an object and hold down the shift key and change the color of the line, clicking a color on the palette. So make sure you have one that has a really nice thick border around it, and that's how you get the line color changed, holding down shift. Okay, so that's good on your rectangles. So give me a green check if you feel like, okay, yeah, I played around with stuff with the rectangles. I'm good on my rectangle layer. It might be hard on your computer right now because of the fact that you are watching a recording and have Inkscape open at the same time. When's the last time you rebooted your computer? Okay. Do you know how to clear your cache too? Oh, the arrows that you had around the square, like, oh, I forgot to even talk about that. Oh, you gotta click on this select and transform tool. This right here makes it so those arrows appear. Good point, forgot to talk about that. Remember, you have to hold down the control key if you want it to maintain the square shape or whatever proportion you have. If you hold down control, it maintains the proportion. If you don't control it, it'll just allow you to kind of mess it up and you'll lose your perfect square. But don't worry, if you do that, you can just hit Control plus Z to undo whatever you did that was a mistake. The border, okay, you go into this fill and or the stroke style tab up here in your fill and stroke menu, and then you can increase the width here. So you can use those arrows and you can decrease it or increase it. And then if you want to pick the color, you hold down the shift key and you can click any of the colors in your swatch down at the bottom, which does go to the right more. There's more colors on the right. And you can play around and adjust those colors in this tab right here, but I don't want you to be overwhelmed. So don't try to remember everything. Just remember the basics. You're welcome. All right, so let's make a new layer. So we're going to go up to Layer, Add Layer, and we're going to call this one Ellipse, Circle, whichever you want. Click Enter. Okay, and let's take the rectangular layer and let's lock it and let's hide it by clicking on the eye so that you can't see it and it's locked. We can't make any changes to it. And then click on your ellipse layer. And then we're going to take this tool. If you hover your cursor over it, says Create Circles, Ellipses, and Arcs. And click on that. And notice that it saved my settings. Yes, create a new layer by going up to Layer, Add Layer. So the Layer menu at the very top, click on that, and then Add Layer. You can also just right in the Layers menu, you can add one down there clicking the plus. Sometimes it doesn't work when I'm making a video when I try to use these shortcuts. So I usually just go to the menu. Everybody click Save. Click Save wherever you're at. And before you use your ellipse tool, you can actually go down and in your palette at the very bottom, if you don't want it to have any fill, you can just click on this X. And then if you want it to have a black outline, hold down your Shift or whatever color outline you want it to be and click on that. And now everything I draw is going to have no fill and that outline. Now, if I'm not liking the width, if it's too much, grab my select tool and I can just click and drag over everything and it will select everything at one time. So I'm going to see, it might not work, but if I decrease my width, oh look, it's doing them all at the same time. So I'm actually having a really good day today on Inkscape. So you can change everything all at once using that shift. Oh, shift also, I guess I should have, I'm just selecting it all, but like let's just say I want to select a couple of them. I can hold, oops, there we go, select one, hold down shift, and select the other one that I want. So maybe I want to increase the width on a couple of them, but not have it big on all of them. So that probably, if you're not looking at what I'm doing, that might not have sounded so clear. Who can tell me how to make a circle? How do I make a perfect circle? Control. Remember, control makes circles and squares, right, and straight lines. So hold on your control key, and you'll know, oops, make sure you have your ellipse tool selected. Make sure you press save. Hold down your control key, and you'll notice then you get perfect circles. So you can draw beautiful circles. And hold down that, if you get your select tool, you always have to get your select tool back when you go to select things. Hold down your shift key, and if you want to change the strokes, the width of the stroke or the outline, you can do that. And you can also change the color of them by holding down shift. So go ahead and grab some of your ellipses or circles and change their outline color by holding down shift. And then go ahead and grab some of them and change the fill. If it starts to slow down, just click save. Give it a second to catch up. You can hit Control Z if you want to. Remember, Control Z undoes your last move. So if you made a move that you didn't like, or you made a couple of moves that you didn't like, just hit Control Z, and go back as far as you want. Scott, hit save. Yeah, sometimes you have to hit save and just wait a second, and then your computer will kind of catch up with where you're at. Happens to me all the time. So then go ahead and you can, yeah, mine's running a little bit slow right now too. Go ahead and fill some of them in. However you like. And then you can go ahead and pick a point where you're like, okay, got it. Oh, I forgot to show you guys. When you select these, hold down your hold your circle tool or your ellipse tool, and you get some handles. The square handles allow you to change the dimensions, the shapes of it. The round handle, if you drag on the outside, it creates a Pac-Man. So my cursor is on the outside, but if I bring my cursor to the center of it, it creates an arc as I'm dragging it. So play around with that, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, I can show you again when you get there. But you're just going to grab that round handle, and if your cursor is in the center of your shape, it creates arcs. And if you drag the cursor to the outside of the shape, it makes angles, like Pac-Man, waka, 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 waka. Okay, so make a Pac-Man on your page. And then click Save. And we're going to create another new layer. And we'll call this one Pencil. So make a new layer named pencil, and then go ahead and lock and hide your ellipse layer. And make sure that you have your pencil layer selected. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. I know I might be moving a little fast, so just say, slow down. No, this is the assignment. Remember how I was showing you how to go through the lessons? On the lessons, they tell you to do all of these different tools to practice them, and then you turn them in. That's part 1. So you're going to submit this to the Dropbox. These are the Unit 2 lessons. And then the second part of the assignment is to take what you've learned and create a work of art. We are kind of just messing around, but that's basically what the Unit 2 lesson does, is it just messes around with the tools and gets you familiar with them. Okay, so give me a green check if you've got your pencil layer ready and you're ready to start using the pencil. You can always go back and fool around with the ellipse tool some more later. Gavin, looks like you might have a little bit of a delay. Everybody click save. If you haven't done that, just keep saving constantly. And are you ready, Gavin? Give me a yes, good. Okay, thank you. I was going to say give me an X just to show me you're there. Perfect. So we're all in the pencil layer, and you're going to select your pencil tool here. And I love the pencil tool. When I first started drawing with the pencil tool, I didn't like it because I didn't know about smoothness settings. Yeah, the smoothness setting makes all the difference. It actually makes this tool really fun. So you'll notice that your default setting is probably 4, right? And go ahead and just go to the top of the page and start drawing something. And look at how rickety looking it is. So you just kind of, what you do to draw is you just click and hold, and you just kind of draw as you're holding down the cursor, and then when you're done, you just release, and that's your line. Do you guys see how rickety it is? It just looks really tacky. So then increase your smoothness to 45. You can increase it higher than 45, but 45 seems to be kind of the magic number. Now go down below it and draw a similar path that you did before. And look at the difference in the smoothness. You would have never known that you were drawing with a mouse. Make a shape like a heart. Go ahead and draw a heart, and you can close it. You can close your shape when you put your cursor over that little start point that turns red, and it connects it. So once you have your heart on there, you might go, it's not looking that great. I'm going to hit Control Z and undo it, and I'm going to increase my smoothness a little bit more. Maybe I'll go up to 70 and see if that makes a difference with my heart. And maybe I'm just not liking that at all. So here's how you edit. So I just want to show you how to use nodes. Give me a green check if you remember using nodes to edit your lines. Give me a green check if you use nodes to edit your lines. And if you're not sure, give me a red X if you haven't. You're not sure what I'm talking about. Okay. Everybody, yeah. Okay, so if you've used them and you know what you're doing, it was a green check for that. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and click on nodes. This is the edit paths by nodes is what it's called. And those little nodes show up. And man, are my nodes in a bizarre place or what? That doesn't even look anything like a heart to me. So I'm going to take this node right here, and I'm going to make it a point. So I'm going over to this these little items up here at the top of the menu, they help you to do different things with the node. Like if you want to add another node, you can. Or if you want to make 2 nodes into 1, or 1 node into 2, or if you want to connect 2 nodes that aren't connected or disconnect. There's all these different things. This will help to change the shape of them. So I'm going to change that node at the bottom to a point, to a corner. And sometimes I have to click it twice. All right, so now I've got that bottom node is a corner for my heart. Now everything else is looking way out of place. I don't need this node right here. So I'm going to click on it. I just select it, and then I can just hit delete, and that node will go away. So for my heart, I really only need 2 nodes. I need the one that's up at the top at that little apex, and I need the one that's down at the bottom. Now these other lines, I can just grab them and click them and drag them and shape them how I want them. So everybody go ahead and play around and click and drag and shape your heart and try to make it how you want it. That's great. And then once you get it, you can just hit your select tool and those nodes will go away. And then you can increase your stroke width if you want to make the outline heavier. And then you can go ahead and fill it with a color. And in the assignment, it doesn't specifically say to do a heart, but this for sure will demonstrate to me that, you know, you practiced using your pencil tool. You can only see the chat box. Are you talking to me? So wherever you're at, click save. And once you feel like you've fooled around with the smoothness and you got this idea of how awesome this tool is, and I do recommend that you bring that smoothness down to 45 because it will click save wherever you're at and then wait for your program to catch up if it's falling down like mine is. Yeah, bring it back down to 45. It's pretty nice. Is it too smooth for yours? Okay. It's pretty nice because, like, even if you just, you know, like if you sit down and just try to draw like the silhouette of someone's face. It works really nice. And then, of course, you can put an eyeball in there, draw an ear. I probably would need to decrease my smoothness a little bit for my face because it didn't really get my lips in there. I'm going to increase the size of my, well, actually, just, nah. Okay, so let's go ahead and click Save, and let's lock the pencil layer, hide it, create a new layer, and call that one Bezier tool. Give me a green check when you are ready to start working with the Bezier tool, which is also called the pen tool. All right, Davin, just want to make sure that you're ready to move forward. We're just putting the new layer together for Bezier tool. I should spell that for you. There you go. Okay, so that Bezier tool is right here. It says draw Bezier curves and straight lines. And the Bezier tool is a French word. That's why it sounds so funny. You can also call it pen tool. But this tool is probably the most complicated out of all of them, just because there's different ways that you can draw with it. You can do simple click, move your cursor. Remember how I was telling you how to draw a straight line? And so you click and release, and then just move it wherever you want your line to be, and then click, and that creates your, oops, that creates another node, another point. If you want it to end right there, hit enter. The other way that you can end it, so click, release, and drag it wherever you want it, double click to end it. So there's two different ways. But if you wanted to create more than one straight line, you could just click, 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 and make this lovely zigzag. When you get to the end, double click or hit enter to end it. Okay. So once again, you can increase the strokes of those lines, and notice now, if you get one of those zigzag lines, hold down your shift key and change the line color. And then without holding down the shift key, pick another color and make a fill. And you'll notice that it creates a fill around your zigzag. So if you're not liking that, you can just hit Control-Z. But I just want to make you aware that sometimes if you forget to hit the shift key, it'll do funny things like that. Just know that that's why, because you forgot to hit shift if you're trying to change your line color. You can hit Control-Z. Oh, my Control-Z didn't undo my fill. It undid my alignment. Oh, well, time to click Save. Okay, now I want to show you how to make your 15-degree increment. So make sure you have your pen tool selected. At the bottom left corner, click and hold down, hold the Control key. Sorry, I keep saying shift, but I mean Control. And you'll notice as you drag it across, it'll make a perfectly horizontal line. Double click to end that line. Go back to that initial start point, click, release, hold the Control key as you drag that, and you'll notice that you can do 15-degree increment up. Double click to end that. Click Save. My computer is starting to slow down. And sometimes I also go up and click my Select key and then go back to my tool again. So I'm going to go back to that bottom left corner, click Release, hold down Control, and now it'll let me make a 45-degree angle from my horizon line. You can, if you forget to double click, you can just hit Enter to make your end point. Go back to the beginning, hold down your Control. This would be what, a 45, 55, 60-degree angle. Go back to the beginning, hold down Control. That would be your 75-degree angle. And then make your 90-degree. Oh, no, you've got a, I don't think I'm adding right. Okay, so there was 45, 55, 60. Oh, that was 60, and this is my 75. And now I've got my 90-degree, which is a straight vertical line. Okay, so you should have a nice little gradient of lines like that to show that you know how to control the degrees of your straight lines. Okay, and then once you're done with that, the other thing that you can use with your Bezier is to draw curves. So to do that, you just click and hold it now. And then click and hold for your next point, and you get these weird handles. So just kind of play around with those a little bit. And you can go ahead and end by clicking on the start point. So I'm going to grab my, you can click and drag these shapes around. I'm going to move these other lines I made out of the way so I can focus on that shape that I just drew with all those curves. And I'm going to click the nodes, edit node paths tool Click Save, wherever you're at, Save. And then you'll notice when you click on those nodes, you have those handles that you can play around with. Now for me, handles are annoying. That's why I like the pencil tool, because I just like to be able to set my smoothness and draw it the way I want it. And that doesn't always happen. You might decide to delete one of your nodes. You might not like the way it's impacting your picture. Okay, hopefully you guys have had a chance to play around with the Bezier tool. You just clicked and clicked? Yeah. I know, I don't like the click and hold either. I'm not a big fan of that, but I do love the pencil tool. I love the pencil tool because you can just draw whatever you want. And then you can go in and adjust your nodes later, which I prefer to do. But everybody has their own, like, it's just interesting the way everybody kind of adapts to the tools differently. So we're done with the Bezier tool. Go ahead and lock it and hide it. And let's go ahead and create a new layer. And we'll call that one calligraphy. And then the calligraphy tool is just below the Bezier tool. And the settings on there, I think the biggest setting is going to be like the width setting. And then the thinning setting is interesting because, and I'm talking about these settings at the top of the page, like the thinning says how much velocity thins the stroke. So like the faster I draw it, oh, and look at, you can see because of my old settings, I have such a huge stroke width that you can actually see there's a fill. I'm going to decrease my stroke width. So you might want to have like no fill. Oh, that's cool. I love that. Sweet. That's fun. Okay, so go ahead and just take your calligraphy tool, play around with the width and the different things, changing the options. You might decide to fill them. I kind of like this idea of not having any fill in them because I'm going to show you a trick. Down the paint bucket and do it. Okay, it'll work with the paint bucket. And you can change the colors. Remember, you have to click Edit, Deselect every single time. If you don't have an outline, then click Shift and pick a color. And now try drawing the shape. If you don't have an outline, it's probably because outlines aren't good for the paint bucket. So remember, you always have to go Edit, Deselect, and then you can pick a new color and pick a new spot to fill. But you could go in and fill any area that you want to be red. It's so cool. I love this. Edit, Deselect when you want it, because something's selected and you don't want to have it. So selected when you go to pick the color. Click Save somewhere in there. But isn't it a fun, snappy little feature? I love that. That's what I was trying to show you. So get some things filled up, and then we can use the eraser. Oops, Control Z. Remember, Edit, Deselect every time, and you can change your colors. Okay, so once you get some stuff filled in, click Save if it starts to slow down. Then try the eraser tool. So now go back with that eraser and click on that little X, and whatever you draw a line through, it should erase it. You can hit Control Z to bring it back if you want to. So you just kind of draw a little line through it, and it'll erase it. And then click that other one, the Cutout from Objects. It's right next to the X one. This one is sweet. Now draw through a shape. Just draw right through it and look at what it does. Did you do it? Did you see how it was just like a little parasite going through, eating away at your shapes? Kind of looks like an ant hole or a wormhole. All right. So hopefully you guys were able to catch that tool. Yeah. So when you get all of that done, you're done. Click File, Save, and then just submit that to the Dropbox. And then the next part of your assignment is to pick an artist and try to make a design inspired by an artwork by that artist. Just make sure that you leave me a caption that tells me who the artist was, what the artwork is, what inspired you about that, the success that you had. So are you talking about how do you do these little holes? Isn't that cool? That's this eraser. Yeah, that's this, you get the eraser tool and you click on this cut out from objects. So notice if I just draw a rectangle and then I take my eraser and I get this cut out from objects. Yeah, you're going to turn this in. Yep, and then you're done with part 1 of the assignment. Part 2 is just to use everything that you learned and get creative. And then you just draw like that. Isn't that fun? I love it. Okay, if you're finished, give me a green check and you're free to go. Just throw those in the Dropbox before you leave so that you're done with it. Thank you.